Have you ever had irrational fears? Very, very irrational fears? You spent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not thinking about anything but that irrational fear. While anything else can be on your mind, you still have that one big fear on your mind. I, Michael Roberts, have plenty of irrational obsessions, worries, and fears. I have been afraid of bees, rain, getting sick, people hating stuff I like, turning a year older, losing my creativity, losing my sense of humor. If somebody would have given me these 12 tips back then on how to overcome those fears, I would have lived a much happier life. Number 1, focus on the good and examine the evidence. For instance, in my first couple of years of college, when I told a joke and nobody laughed, that made me think I wasn't as creative as I used to be. Whereas in the past, when I told a joke, everybody would be laughing. Then again, I did make a lot of songs and make a lot of jokes that people laughed at, so that proved that I still had my creativity. I just didn't focus on the positive, I focused on the negative. Forget the negative even exists. Just focus on the positive. Number 2, think, what's the worst that can happen? Suppose you're afraid of asking a girl out on a date. What's the worst that can happen? Is she gonna kill you? Is she gonna strangle you to death? No, this is very cliched, but the worst that can happen is she'll just say no. Number 3, replace your main fear with another fear. In that first year of college when I had that big creativity obsession, I replaced it with another obsession, like how my face looked, if I had pimples or not. I wanted to have completely clear skin. Everybody gets acne, and hey, if you have like 1 or 2 pimples, or even 3, there are a lot of ugly people that you're better looking than. Number 4, try writing about your fear. I have a creative outlet to write about my fears, my musical career. For instance, when I keep on being afraid of being pathetic to society because I'm a grown man who never had a girlfriend before, I wrote a very brilliant song called Singles Rage. Writing that song and nailing every aspect of my fear was kind of like a vaccine for that obsession. And I don't obsess about it as much anymore because of that one little song that I made. Number 5, make a firm decision not to be afraid of whatever you're afraid of. Your strong willpower and confidence is still inside of you. You better use that to the maximum. Hey, fear, you can't get to me. I'm the man. Okay, that may make you look a little silly, but just try to make a firm decision not to be afraid of it. That's all. Don't go, never go, Number 6, pay very close attention to what your therapists tell you. When I was in college listening to my therapist's advice, I was always rebellious against them, not doing what they told me to do. I'm like, they're like 50 years old and I'm 21. It's been a while since they were 21 and in college. They don't know what kids my age do. They probably do see tons of clients around your age. Therapists study brains. They spend years longer than you've been alive, studying what is wrong with people and what is going on inside their brain. They know what's going on inside yours. You rarely do. So you better pay attention to them. Number 7, imagine that somebody who doesn't fear the things you do is awesome, and you desire to have the ambition to be just like that person. Like for instance, if you are afraid of getting sick and somebody next to you has a cold, you're hanging out with like 4 people and that one person who has a cold, those other 4 people are not scared of getting a cold from him. They're like, oh, you got a cold? I hope you feel better. Inside your head, you're like, oh my God, he has a cold. Oh, I better wash my hands. Purell, Purell. Those people are not afraid of getting a cold from him. You should have ambition to be just like them. You should think to yourself, oh, they're not scared of getting sick from him. They must be cool. If you want to be cool, don't be afraid of getting a cold. And having a cold actually toughens up your immune system. So there's some good in it. Number 8. Acknowledge that your biggest fear is part of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is almost like cancer. The more it tightens up, the more it kind of kills you. I know stepping out of your comfort zone is kind of scary, and it might fill you with some kind of anxiety that you don't really like and you're uncomfortable with, but the most rewarding part of that is if you face that fear, you get that anxiety. That anxiety is kind of awesome because it knows something cool is going to result from this. If you're afraid of like asking a girl to do something with you, just go do it. What's the worst that can happen? She's not going to kill you. The worst she can say is say no. If she says yes, you stood up to your fear, spit in its face, and now that girl that you really like is gonna go out with you on a date or as your friend. You've got her friendship, she's got your friendship, and you might turn that into a relationship. You've stepped out of your comfort zone, you are the man. Number 9, try to relax yourself. Don't try to ask other people for reassurance. Once again, examine the evidence. If you're upset because a girl you texted didn't text you back, and you think all of a sudden she hates you, and you feel the ignored text blues like you really want attention from her, but you're not getting the attention from her, always remember that nothing you did actually upset her. She still actually likes you. You know, she may be busy with something. Her phone may have died. It's not like you texted her your private area. Hey, what's that, bubblegum? That's one reason she wouldn't like you anymore. Just examine the evidence and calm yourself down. Number 10, let fear motivate you to do something about it. If you are afraid of failing an exam, try your best to study as hard as you can, get a study group together, whatever you can do to pass that final exam you're afraid of failing. Let that fear of failure motivate you to actually succeed. And then you're like, oh, I got an A, yay! Number 11, think about how somebody else is doing, not yourself. Having constant obsessions makes you think about yourself more often than you do anybody else. That can make you come off as narcissistic and self-absorbed. You don't want to be narcissistic, do you? You want to care about other people. Just think, you are watching a YouTube video right now, and you've gotten very far in that video. There are a lot of people in this world who live on the streets, who do drugs, who are in prison, who are poor, who don't have money, who can't afford computers, who can't afford smartphones, who can't afford social media. They're not as fortunate as you. You should be thankful that you have what you have in your life. Number 12, turn that big fear into an interest. For instance, last year, I somehow got afraid of angry people using the F word for some reason. When they used that word, I got really scared. And that was one of those really irrational fears that I had, but I started getting interested in profanity again and finding out what's really funny about it. And that brought me back to my normal self. So those are my 12 tips on how to overcome big irrational fears.
610 Productions.